Hello and good afternoon. This is Gerald Lawrence, the chairman of the Delaware County Board of Elections, and I call to order the March 2nd, 2021 meeting of the board. With me today are the fellow members of the Board of Elections, Jim Byrne and Ashley Lunkheimer. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Hello.
So we have our agenda, and we might as well begin. The first item on the agenda is the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone wants to take a moment to stand. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good afternoon, welcome. The first business matter on the agenda is the review of the meeting minutes. The minutes were distributed to the members of the board. Does anyone have any comment or correction to the minutes? There being none, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second?
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye, aye.
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 So the minutes have been approved. We received and Ms. Hagan delivered, distributed to us before the meeting, 2 batches of public comment. Much of it was about the drop boxes. There were a couple of other items included in the public comment that we can address during the meeting. They're part of other matters that we have. Has there been any additional comments received, Ms. Hagan, since you distributed the comments to us earlier this afternoon?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is perhaps 15 additional messages.
Okay.
Most seem to be addressing the Dropbox questions or issue. Would you like me to read those, or?
You know, so the public's aware. I probably read 40 or 50 already. It seems on the Dropbox. I don't want to ignore people. Perhaps if you want to just look at them and perhaps you could summarize them. This one's in favor, in favor, in favor. Or if somebody has something unique, many of them seem to be rather similar of the ones that I have read. So I don't want to waste time reading them all over, but obviously what people are thinking is important. So perhaps you could just say who they're from and it's in favor or opposed, or if it had something unique that we haven't seen in the other comments, you could point it out to us.
Okay. The first one, other than the ones I had given the board earlier, is from Peter Paraginelli, and he is from Media PA, and he also recommends keeping the drop boxes. Says that it's an invaluable issue to the community. Next one on drop boxes is Kathleen Kochi. She is from Ridley Park. Again, also stating that she would like the drop boxes to be used. It adds a convenience to the community. Sandy Harrison from Ardmore, Haverford Township. I strongly urge to continue using the drop boxes for all elections. Barbara Gallagher from Springfield, Pennsylvania. She states that as a handicapped person, she wants to keep the drop boxes for ease of accessibility. Marcia Pelchet from Haverford would like to keep the drop boxes with concern because of the U.S. Postal Service's issues in service timely. Anne McLaughlin from Rose Valley also supports the drop boxes. Scroll up here. From 2 Packard from Media, Pennsylvania. again, because of accessibility issues, strongly supports the use of drop boxes. Janice Hammond from Drexel Hill also agrees the drop boxes provide an invaluable service to the community. Carrie Ann Adamo from Drexel Hill and believes they should be used and their use should be expanded. Peggy Wilson from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, wishes to keep the drop boxes. Lucia Cox from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, thanks for the use of the mailbox or drop boxes in November and would like them to be continued in 2021. David Heyman from Drexel Hill, Pennsylvania, believes that the drop boxes provide an invaluable service to the community. Dolores Lombardi from Upper Darby Township fully supports the use of drop boxes around Delaware County. And last one. She talks, trying to see what her, yeah, she did, this is a different issue, not about drop boxes, so.
Okay, well, maybe you read
That's
that
it.
one.
Yeah, okay. So this is from Joan Mitchell of Folsom. Thank you for an amazing job you did as an election board under extreme circumstances in the 2020 election. Your team worked hard to handle last minute changes to meet the needs of a crisis. I realize due to COVID, we had to take extreme measures to help people vote. However, I do believe those measures should not be the norm for ongoing elections as they open the door for ballot harvesting. I believe traditional in-person sites are sufficient. If people have difficulty with transportation to an election site, they should invest the money to afford increased in-person opportunities, i.e. transportation waivers, or open other election sites to adequately serve these people. I believe people in ballots are, I believe mail-in ballots are sufficient for those who cannot physically vote due to disability. Thank you. That is all the comments we have.
All right. Thank you. And, you know, I think other than the last comment, pretty much everyone you read was in favor of the drop boxes. But in the comments that the board had received previously, there were a number of persons that were opposed to the drop boxes as well. So just so that the public understands, there are certainly opinions on both sides of this issue. So let's move to the first item, unless somebody else has something to say. And okay, I thought I heard something. The director of elections report, Ms. Jackson, has a few items that she is going to present to us.
Thank you, Chairman Lawrence. The first of the three items regards the approval of the hiring of specific candidate for the director of elections role, the permanent role. And just to give a bit of background to everybody, the Delaware County Human Resources Department has conducted an extensive search for a new director of elections who will report to both the Board of Elections and the executive director of Delaware County. So this is a new role within the county, and it was recommended as a result of an external analysis after the 2020 primary election. This position will oversee everything that pertains to the election process within Delaware County, as well as the three current election departments, including the Bureau of Elections, voter registration, and voting machine warehouse. Additionally, this position will be responsible for reorganizing the three departments into a more cohesive, efficient, and modern elections department. This role was posted on January 4th on the Delaware County website and on Indeed, the job site, which is very standard process for the county. We received approximately 25 candidate postings from around the country, and we narrowed the candidates to 2 based upon their extensive elections experience and expertise. So once those candidates were narrowed down to 2, the interview process for the final 2 candidates was conducted by HR, along with broad assistance from members of the Board of Elections, County Councilwoman Christine Ruther, Board of Elections Solicitor Manley Parks, myself, and the Delaware County Executive Director. So we had whittled it down to two candidates. Prior to one candidate's final 2 interviews, a candidate withdrew from consideration due to circumstances at his current job. However, the fact that one candidate withdrew from consideration in the final interview should not cloud anybody's judgment that the candidate being put forth is a most excellent candidate in his own right. So the candidate being put forth this time for your approval is James Allen. James has extensive elections experience in the state of Illinois since 2006. He's been working as a communications and strategic planning consultant for the Board of Election Commissioners in Cook County. And so he was responsible for things such as all voter communications for the 2020 primary and general election. He was able to secure a $2.3 million grant to help fund poll worker recruitment, expand vote by mail services, and secure PPE to make the election safe and secure during the pandemic. He served as the public face of the board on many occasions, coordinated communications and training for poll workers, and worked across a host of stakeholders, including the Mayor of Chicago, the Illinois State Board of Elections, Cook County Clerk's Office, elected officials, League of Women Voters, and Republican and Democratic Party members. So Jim also previously served as an assistant Cook County treasurer for 7 years, so he's very aware of the inner workings of a county. And before that, he was a Metro writer and Chicago bureau chief for the Daily Herald, as well as a City Hall reporter for both the Herald and the Review. So the recommendation before the board is to approve James Allen for the role of Director of Elections.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve or recommend the county's hiring of? I guess it's not a recommendation. It's that the county has recommended to us that we approve it. So I guess that technically we're looking for a motion to approve the hiring of Mr. Allen. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Yeah, I'll second it for discussion.
Okay. Who wants to go first on discussion?
Go ahead.
You
Jim.
can go, Ashley, if you'd like.
Go ahead. I'd like to hear your view.
Yeah, I'd like to know, you had mentioned, Ms. Jackson, that there was an extensive search. How many people from Delaware County applied for the job?
I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Byrne, although I believe that it may be 0, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Don't we have, and maybe this is more appropriately directed to Mr. Parks, don't we have a residency requirement in our charter or our administrative regs?
I believe we do, but it's not a requirement to hire someone. They have a certain period of time to relocate, though.
Yeah, how long is that?
I do not remember, but I believe. Well, I would have to check it. I'm not gonna go on my best recollection. I think it's worth checking, but I believe it's a few months.
Okay. What is the salary that we're proposing to pay this fellow?
I believe it was approved through the personnel meeting of county council to pay up to $145,000 for this role.
Yeah, well, up to $145,000 is a long way from 0 to 145. What is the amount we're going to pay him?
Excuse me, I didn't understand that last portion of your comment, Mr. Byrne.
I said up, 0 to 145,000 is a big distance. What is the amount we're going to pay him?
I don't know that that final number has been put together, but my estimate would be that it's going to be in the 140 to 145 range.
But how can we vote on it if we don't know what we're going to pay them? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would we hire somebody and then talk about salary later?
I don't think they're asking us to hire him or set the salary. I think they're asking us if we find the candidate to be acceptable.
I know, but if I have to vote on this person and I have a responsibility, I think, to the taxpayers, I'd like to know what he's going to be paid.
I just called the chief personnel officer, and I believe the offer was made at 145.
Okay. Is there any relocation
Thank you.
expense for him coming from Chicago?
I am sure there will be.
Do you know the amount of them?
I don't think we've negotiated the relocation allowance.
Okay. Are there any other perks that he's going to receive?
They'll get the standard set of benefits that are offered to our directors, but nothing
And
beyond that.
what does that include?
Includes medical care. They participate in the county's pension system, the county holidays, and directors get 30 days vacation.
Now, when we hired Ms. Jackson and other consultants, there was a lot of talk about how much extra that would cost since they weren't consultants. How much does that come to? Do we know?
How much do
the perks cost?
Yeah, the typical number that we use to estimate for budgeting is that benefits burden, as well as the administrative burden, is generally around 60%.
How much? I'm sorry.
About 60% of salary, but that includes other indirect costs. The healthcare, as you look at the number that comes out of the study, the majority of that number is in the healthcare number. And just for your information, one thing we're no longer offering new team members is retiree healthcare. So that's not part of the package. So that number will probably be less once we feel the impact of not offering the retiree healthcare package.
I'm just trying to get an idea of what the total package is going to be. What's this going to be? What are we going to be paying this fellow?
Well, it's a fair question. And the base salary, offers 145. And then, as I said, the medical benefits burden runs around 60% of salary.
So 60% of 145 is what? Another $80,000?
I can do the math real quick. I got a calculator. Yeah, it's about 86. But again, that's just an estimate for budgeting.
So we're talking about $230,000 we're going to pay this fellow for this election director office.
Well, that's the cost of the county total, because the salary is 145. But yeah, if you're asking about the total burden, that's about what it is.
An awful lot of money. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
If I can answer one other question, the council recently adopted the change in the residency ordinance to allow people time to relocate. I believe that was 60 days. That's in the change to the ordinance, and that can be extended once the new hire shows good faith effort to relocate. And as the executive director, I can authorize a couple of extensions. Beyond that, the county council will review and authorize. There are a couple of people, recent hires, who are dedicated and have shown good faith to move into the county. It's just a really tight real estate market right now.
Yeah, but it's a really wide open job market right now. So why would we be trying to get people from out of state when we have people that are unemployed in Delaware County? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It's a highly specialized job to run an elections department, and when you're looking for someone with experience, they're hard to come by.
Well, I think we have some very experienced people right in our own office. I mean, I think would love to have a raise to $230,000. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me from a morale purpose, from a practical purpose, or from an economical purpose. It's just a bad move.
Well, the job was advertised and people were free to apply for it.
Yeah, but I had contact with one person is who I talked with, only Mr. Allen, nobody else.
Mr. Chairman,
Jim,
would
do
you
you
like?
have anything else?
No, I'm
Yeah,
done.
if Jim, if you're,
No,
okay. Ashley,
I'm done.
I just want to say, I think that, thank you to the HR department, to Ms. Jackson and others. This was, I think, a really important culmination of a lot of efforts and lessons learned, all the way going back to the primary and even before the need for this role, the recommendation from Eisner-Amper to create this role, the value of the role that was exhibited by our interim director. And now this is a great opportunity to transition to a more permanent and non-interim solution for the future, so that we can be the most efficient and excellent elections bureau that we can be, and with all the efficiencies and savings and other things that will ultimately be drafted from that coordinated effort. I'm really grateful to everybody who participated in it. I think the candidate that we have has a tremendous amount of experience, and I'm looking forward to working with them. And I intend to vote in favor of this approval. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you can't see me, so that's all I wanted to say.
thank you. I did also only speak with Mr. Allen. I was actually scheduled to speak with the other candidate, and probably an hour before I was scheduled to speak with him, he withdrew. But I did find Mr. Allen to be immensely experienced and talented, and it would seem to me very much qualified for the position. Unless anybody has further comment, I'm prepared to call the question for a vote. So we'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that motion passes. Next, we're still with Ms. Jackson, and tell us about the drop boxes.
Thank you, Chairman Lawrence. So I did send a pre-read out to members of the Board of Elections Sunday evening. Hopefully you all received that, were able to take a look at it before today. So just as a bit of background for everybody listening, the Board of Elections did approve the deployment and installation of ballot drop boxes across Delaware County in the fall of 2020 for a couple of different reasons, in part due to the legalization of no excuse mail-in ballots with Act 77, and also in part due to the COVID-19 national pandemic. So I also sent out an Excel spreadsheet with the location of all of the current drop boxes, just for your background. So a formal letter was sent out to each of the 49 municipalities within Delaware County, offering them the opportunity to have a drop box placed either at their municipal building or in another highly visible location within their municipality. Of the 49 municipalities, 41 agreed to the installation of a drop box, and 8 either did not respond at all or voted no to the placement of a drop box. So in the September-October timeframe last year, all 41 boxes, along with associated surveillance equipment, were installed and deployed within those locations outlined in that Excel spreadsheet. And a bit of information on the utilization of those boxes. Though we only had those drop boxes open for a full 2 weeks due to the installation schedule and some delays in getting the appropriate surveillance equipment, there were 43,499 voters in Delaware County who chose to utilize the drop boxes to securely drop off their mail-in ballots. So that number represents approximately 34% of all of the mail-in ballots received in the county for the 2020 general election. So again, about 43,500 voters utilized those drop boxes, and that represented about 34% of the total mail-in ballots. So on May 18th of this year, we are going to have a municipal primary election, and the Board of Elections does need to make a decision on whether or not to deploy the ballot drop boxes for that primary election. Just a quick note too, the legal agreements that Delaware County received from all of the municipalities where a drop box was placed, they were evergreen in nature, meaning that the contract is renewed automatically for 5 years. There is a bit of maintenance and some potential physical changes that we may need to make to some of the boxes. There are a total of 7 drop box sites that do require some form of maintenance or possible changes to the location of the 12-foot pole. I think you all know that those 12-foot poles were placed within 10 feet of the boxes because they contain the surveillance equipment and the solar panels that actually run the surveillance equipment. So there are 3 sites, Marple, Sharon Hill, and Swarthmore, that need some minor tree trimming, away from the solar panels so that those solar panels are able to fully charge, keep the batteries charged. And there are 3 locations, the Media Borough site, Media Borough Hall, Nether Providence, and Upper Darby, where we are in the process of putting together an RFP for a contractor to go out and take a look at the placement of the pole, or see if we may want to run an electrical backup in those locations. We had a few occasions where the batteries were running down, I believe, due to the placement of the poles, and then we had to immediately insert the slot inserters and shut down the boxes until the batteries came back up. And then lastly, in Morton, we just need to replace the current drop box with one that we have in surplus due to some faulty doors. It didn't impact the security of the box at all. It just meant when the ballot collectors went to go collect the ballots, they actually had to use a screwdriver to like hinge up the door to get it open and shut, although it did lock, absolutely. So the recommendation that I'm putting before you today is to deploy the 41 drop boxes in the current locations beginning 5 days after the ballots are mailed to Delaware County voters through 8 p.m. on May 18th. It would also be my recommendation that a letter be sent to each of the municipalities by the end of March, making them aware that the drop boxes will be deployed for the primary election. And then lastly, it would be my recommendation to move forward with scoping out the costs of the required maintenance or physical changes to the location of the poles or running power backups at the 3 sites. So Chairman Lawrence.
All right, so let's can we get a motion on the table to authorize Ms. Jackson to move forward with the drop boxes as she outlined.
So moved.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, so Ashley, I think it's your turn.
No, I think, we did have a variety of letters, obviously, from the beginning. Some people have not been in favor of the use of the drop boxes, and I understand that. I do think it's important to recognize that the letters in their variety of support for it did indicate at times different reasons that they supported the use of the drop boxes. I believe that one voter described an elderly parent who had very specific limitations, and the drop box gave her more safety and comfort concern. Others were concerned about the mail. There was just a real variety, and I think to the extent that I've made it clear throughout board meetings that I am in support of fully and fairly helping everybody who has the right to vote be able to exercise, consistent with the law, their right to vote. I think that the redeployment of these drop boxes, given the numbers, given the short time frame, I mean, that's 1/3 of the mail-in ballots, almost even a little bit more. I think that's a tremendously positive sign that they were well deployed, and so I would support their redeployment, I guess, or if it's continued deployment. I don't know that they've necessarily been pulled from some locations, so just continued deployment. And I think maximizing their capabilities by some of the maintenance that Ms. Jackson described makes sense to me as well. So I would support that. I think there's perhaps a recommendation process. I'm not quite sure, Mr. Chairman, how we want to nuance that part of it, because that I think is a recommendation perhaps to County Council. So I don't know if we need to discuss how to phrase it, but I would ask County Council to support that maximization that will cost some money to make happen. So for all those reasons, I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm glad that voters utilize them. The county did spend significant amount of resources to make these a long-term solution to helping voters vote fairly and fully in our elections. And I intend to vote in favor of the recommendations of Ms. Jackson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Jim?
Thank you. First, I want to thank Ms. Jackson for the pre-read. I do appreciate that. I know I've been pretty vocal in other meetings about things showing up on the agenda beforehand without having a chance to read about them. And she deserves kudos for getting the pre-read out in time for us to digest it and understand it. So I do thank you for that. However, I do have some real concern, first about the workings of these ballot boxes. I mean, I've seen a couple comments that came to us during the public comment session today, and I've received several phone calls of people who deposited their ballots in the ballot box, and their vote was not counted until January 21st or thereabout. I mean, to me, that's a really big problem. I'm very concerned about the security of these boxes, especially in light of the fact that, we have boxes that's broken in Morton. We have boxes to where the poles are being overgrown by brush and other things. So I think that's a problem. I think one of the main reasons that we went to these boxes was because of the COVID, and hopefully we're on the downside of that now and going to be on the other side of it very soon. So I don't know that I don't particularly agree that they're permitted, but I also don't think that they're needed. And, it just adds to additional cost that this election board of ours is now grown to a massive animal that the costs are just overwhelming. So I would like to explore with Ms. Jackson some of the costs that you didn't mention the numbers that are involved in, and you did mention them in your memo, and I appreciate that, but I think the public should hear the different costs that are going to be associated with this. Could you go over that with us, please?
Absolutely, I'm happy to do that. So the different costs estimated to run the drop boxes in this election cycle would be, one of the things that we have to do is we'd have to reactivate the SIM cards. There's a SIM card for each box, and that would cost us approximately $2,200 to reactivate.
That $2,200 each box or $2,200 altogether?
No, that's $2,200 total.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And then also, and almost most importantly, is the surveillance associated with the boxes. So as you all know, making sure that those boxes stay safe and secure is our utmost concern in deploying those. So one of the reasons that we had the surveillance equipment located on the poles was so that we could run surveillance 24 hours a day. And so the cost of a park police person watching surveillance of all 41 boxes for 24 hours a day, up and including election day, would be approximately $22,500. And then lastly, there is the cost of deploying ballot retrieval teams. So the approximate cost of those teams, we'd have 2 for a period of time, and then we would have 3 for a period of time, would be approximately $14,350. So the total cost package for deployment during this election cycle would be approximately $39,000.
If I could, how long will these boxes be open or available to be used? When would that start?
So the recommendation would be 5 days after the ballots are actually mailed, because that's a little bit of a moving target. It depends on when we get certification of the ballots and the ballots are finished. You know, in a perfect world, I would have the ballot boxes open on April 26th, and that would give voters a full 3.5 weeks to utilize the ballot boxes. And those were the numbers that went into these calculations.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I'm finished.
Okay, so that seems like not. I'm not so certain the $22,000 for the surveillance. Is this 24-hour a day surveillance, or is this?
Yes.
And it's only going to cost $22,000 to watch 41 boxes 24 hours a day for 3.5 weeks.
That's correct.
And how's that calculated?
I don't know the exact calculations, Mr. Byrne. I did send a message to Park Police Captain Scott Mahoney, and I can't remember, Captain Deal got back to me with the approximate cost. So he knows that we need 24-hour-a-day surveillance, a single person whose sole job is to sit in front of these monitors and watch 41 drop boxes. And that is why when I talked about some of the physical changes to these drop boxes, I'm always concerned about the security of the boxes. But when one of the batteries went down and we could no longer surveil, have appropriate surveillance, we immediately went and shut the box down and put a slot inserter in it. And we would not open it back up until the battery came back on and we had appropriate surveillance.
Did Captain Mahoney or the other gentleman you just referenced, did they provide any paperwork on that? I'd like to see that if we could, to justify those expenses. I mean, we're talking about an election director for $230,000 a year, and now we're talking 3.5 weeks to 24 hours a day for security, and we're saying it's only going to be $22,000. I mean, I find that very hard to believe. I mean, it can't be very extensive surveillance. I mean, what does that include? Do we know?
That includes the cost to Park Police of a single person watching the surveillance cameras 24 hours a day. So no, I don't have all the full details, but I'm more than happy to send you the email that was sent to me with the cost in it.
I appreciate that. I would like to see that, and I would like, is that real time? I mean, is there going to be somebody sitting watching 41 spots at one time? And I guess as a corollary to that question, how are they going to be able to watch 41 boxes at one time, as to whether there's ballot harvesting or any other irregularities going on? I mean, it would seem to me, I'm looking at my computer right now, and I have I have eight boxes on my computer right now, and I can't watch them all. I'm looking specifically at you, and I can't watch the others. How how is somebody going to watch for 24 hours a day whether boxes are being appropriately used or not? I mean, is it just one person? I mean, it seems to me that, and I do appreciate your efforts in getting me the information, but I don't know that they've gotten you enough information. Is there just one person going to be watching 41 boxes at a time, or is it going to be more than one person?
It's my understanding, Mr. Byrne, that it is one person. I believe they run 8-hour shifts. So there's 3 shifts throughout the day, but there's never a moment where somebody is not monitoring those boxes. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to walk into the surveillance area in the media government building, but you can actually watch a park police person sit there and watch an entire host of screens that monitor the entire grounds.
Sure, that was good. That was actually going to be one of my follow-up questions. Was I understand that, and I can understand watching the front of the courthouse and the back of the courthouse and going back and forth, but 41 boxes at one time seems impossible to me. I mean, it doesn't seem credible to me. It doesn't seem like a person could do that to be sure that there wasn't people delivering more than one ballot at a time. I mean, how close in do these cameras go? Are we able to tell how many ballots are dropped off? It just doesn't seem to me like we have all the information we need.
Can I ask a question, Jim, as a follow-up?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Mr. Jackson, did the 2 deputies from the Park Police indicate any concerns about being able to fulfill the request to staff the surveillance of those boxes?
No, there was no. The only concern that I had, Ms. Luckenheimer, was ensuring that we do the physical maintenance. You know, that we trim some of the branches around some of the solar panels, and that we take a look and see what our options are at those 3 other locations to ensure that we're maximizing the battery for the solar panels. But other than that, no, I have not heard any, and I feel pretty certain that with my relationship with Park Police, they would have said something to me. And again, I go back to any circumstance for the general election in 2020 where a battery went down. I was notified like that, and we immediately dispatched somebody to shut the box down and not deploy it again until the battery came back up and appropriate surveillance could be conducted.
Yeah, and I applaud you for that. That's great. I mean, the batteries go down, you shut it down. I understand that, but I guess what I'm worried about is appropriate surveillance. I mean, what is appropriate surveillance? You're talking to deputies, and these deputies, I mean, what we did earlier today was hire a fellow for $230,000 a year because he has expertise in election matters, and yet we're going to say that for 3.5 weeks, for 24 hours a day, that for $22,000 we're going to be able to tell whether people are putting in too many ballots at one time, to monitor 41 boxes all at once. It just doesn't seem to add up to me. It's not practical, and it's not believable. It's not credible. I mean, I just don't believe that it can be done.
I mean, but Mr. Byrne, the Park Police presumably have expertise in surveillance activities. That's part of, I understand, the job that they perform for the grounds. And so are we questioning that? I mean, if they had any concerns, I think they would have raised them, but certainly we can, ask Ms. Jackson to address any concerns that they might have as they come up and bring them to our attention if any adjustments need to be made. But that is their expertise, and I wouldn't say that I could override that.
I respectfully disagree with you. I mean, their expertise is in policing things. I mean, if the boxes are being destroyed, or if somebody's, or if the batteries go out, that's one thing. But policing them in terms of whether there's a somebody harvesting votes and bringing a number of votes to a mailbox. I don't believe that can be done. I don't think it can be done with one person for 41 boxes, 24 hours a day. I just don't think it can be done, and I think it's a problem.
Jim, I think you just misspoke when you said mailbox. You meant the ballot drop boxes, but
I did.
You know, to me,
yeah,
but to me, the corollary to the mailboxes is so instructive that there's 150,000 mailboxes or some number like that in the United States, and we don't have surveillance on the 150,000 mailboxes or collection boxes everywhere in the country that anybody could drop a Delaware County ballot into, that anybody could harvest ballots into. They could, harvest ballots and drop them into the mailbox in front of the media post office. I understand there is that risk, but I also recognize that we just ran an election with drop boxes, and maybe Manley will chime in here, but I was told that there was 200 complaints or something like that were of irregular election activities or something that were sent to the district attorney's office. I'm not aware of anything that related to drop boxes where it was determined that there were problems with the drop boxes. So, I get it. That doesn't mean that there can never be problems in the future, but the fact that we just ran an election where so many people were so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to vote, and the fears that the drop boxes would be overwhelmed with fraudulent ballots and so forth certainly didn't seem to materialize. And to my thinking, to allow ourselves to be overwhelmed with these concerns of ballot harvesting and ballot dropping, when, if somebody was actually going to engage in that activity, it would seem to me, if they thought about it at all, they'd do the ballot harvesting at the mailbox as opposed to the ballot drop box, because the mailboxes certainly don't have any surveillance cameras where we could go back and check and see what went on. So I hear your point, and I recognize it's a valid point, but for me, it's not something that is going to dissuade my support for this.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your picking out that the mailboxes are available, because they are, and they've been available for 200 years. And that's the way we've run over our elections for some 200 years. So why we have to continue on this ballot box option when when we're coming out of the COVID, we're coming out of the pandemic. That seemed to be the driving force behind these boxes. And why can't we just go back? I mean, even if it's only $22,000, which I don't think is enough to ensure that they are safe, but even if it's only $22,000, why put that cost on the taxpayers when we have a mail system that's been satisfactory for 200 years? I mean, all we're doing is spending money. I mean, I just can't get over the amount of money that it doesn't seem to bother anybody. Maybe it's just me, but I just can't imagine that the taxpayers in Delaware County are going to be able to afford this. It's just a killer. I mean, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars like it's water. I mean, we just say, okay, that's all right. Let's spend another 25. Let's spend another 50. Let's spend another 200. I mean, that's all. That's my point. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I just at some point, the Delaware County taxpayers, need to be relieved of some of this burden. I mean, the idea of just spending until we break people's backs and, bringing people in from out of state and paying them salaries that are 3 times as much as anybody else in the county has ever made in an election board. It's going to come back to haunt us, and I'm not going to support it.
Okay. Well, let's call the question then, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Ms. Jackson, the voter service centers.
Thank you, Chairman Lawrence. As another bit of background, to prepare for the 2020 general election and the anticipated large turnout of voters, the Board of Elections for Delaware County approved the use of 3 voter service centers across Delaware County. 1 voter service center in media, which is very common practice, has been done on a yearly basis. 1 in Upper Darby in the government building, which was new, and 1 in Chester City Hall. That was a new occurrence as well. So all 3 voter service centers, I think, played a role in ensuring that the vote was both accessible and secure for voters wishing to perform the following functions, which was fill out their mail-in ballot application in person, receive their ballot in person, vote, and then drop them in the drop boxes available at those associated sites. So between the 3 voter service centers, a total of 16,211 ballots were processed and received. And of those ballots, 12,629 were processed at the Media Voter Service Center, about 1,600 at the Chester Voter Service Center, and approximately 2,000 at the Upper Darby Voter Service Center. As a bit of background as well around some of the logistics of the voter service centers, both Media and the Chester Voter Service Centers had adequate parking and office space to conduct the activities that were necessary to facilitate the in-person mail-in ballot processing, with the space in Media being the most optimal. The physical layout in the Upper Darby location was a bit challenging, really due to the Voter Service Center being located on the 4th floor of the government building, and it didn't make sense to have voters going up and down a single elevator. So county employees had to shuttle back and forth on the elevator, which made it a lengthier process for voters to vote there. And there were often very large crowds at all 3 voter service centers, which meant that some voters needed to stand outside in the elements. So that presented a bit of a challenge. However, again, there were close to 13,000 votes processed at the Media Voter Service Center. So the recommendation that I'm putting before the board today is to deploy only the Voter Service Center in the Media government building for the municipal primary election. Mr. Byrd, hopefully that will make you happy to not incur the costs of the other 2 in this election. The rationale for the recommendation is really linked to anticipated lower turnout for the municipal primary election compared to the 2020 general election, as well as the fact that the ballot data confirmed that the Voter Service Center in Media accommodated close to 80% of the mail-in ballots from all 3. And then I would also recommend that appropriate actions be taken now to assess 2 to 3 other viable locations for voter service centers in the 2021 general election. The proposed dates of operation for the Voter Service Center in Media would be, even though it operates now, to have it really serve for that function, April 26th through May 18th, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, normal hours, 8:30 to 4:30, which is when the Voter Registration Bureau of Elections is open there. To have extended hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 in the morning to 8 p.m. to make it convenient for voters who work. And then lastly, to be open from 9 to noon on Saturdays during April 26th through May 18th. And the associated cost with that is purely a staffing cost of 12 to 15 additional seasonal staff at a cost of anywhere between $32,500 to $35,000. So that is the recommendation that I would put before you today.
All right. It seemed it was actually 2 things. The first was you asked for the second thing you asked for. But the first thing I'd like to focus on, because I think it'll be much quicker, is you asked essentially for authorization to search for potentially additional sites for the fall, as opposed to seeking specific approval for a site for the fall or anything to do with this election. I don't know that you necessarily would need our authorization or direction to undertake that, to look into it. If you think that that is something, or the solicitor thinks that is something we should address and have a vote on, we could do that. But at least to my thinking, you're looking at circumstances and making recommendations isn't something you need our authorization to do. Does anybody feel differently about that?
I think that's right. It strikes me as administrative in nature.
Okay, so we won't take any action on that, but know that certainly you, Ms. Jackson, or anyone else at the board is encouraged, I guess, to think of new ideas or ways that could be better, and if there are things that would require the board's action, to then bring them to us. Okay, so that's that. So then let's turn to the specifics of seeking authorization to operate a voter service center at Media and to close the other two for this election. Do we have a motion to that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Jackson, you made my day. You did make me happy. Blessing good clock. And I will make a motion to support Ms. Jackson's recommendation.
And is there a second?
Yes, I second it.
And discussion?
Thank you.
For me, I would just like to say that in addition to making Mr. Burns' day, I think that this data-driven practice that you're developing, that you've developed in these two instances, presenting us with the data, including the fact that even if it's not required that we vote on it, information that you will be at least examining whether there are other locations that the data might support operating a voting service center in the general. I really appreciate that. I see that as one of the improvements we're driving towards. And so thank you for that.
All right. Well, then I don't know that I need to make any comments. So let's just call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And being unanimous, that motion has passed. So, Ms. Jackson, there's nothing else specifically on the subsection relating to the Director of Elections. If you have anything else for us, we'll hear it. If not, we can move on.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Chairman Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Hagan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple items to review with the board or to bring before the board. The first is I request ratification of the legal notice which has been published for the 2021 municipal primary. That was not a complete document, and at that time we had not heard from all of the municipalities. Since then we have, but the document still was published as was. So I do ask for your ratification on that document.
Motion?
So moved.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right.
Second.
I second it.
Okay.
And all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
It's been approved.
Okay.
Lorene, next.
Thank you. Next is consideration for the legal notice of the casting of lots. The casting of lots per election law is required to be held on March 17th, beginning at noon. This year, I have proposed that we move it to a larger location than our office in the Media Government Center complex, and also to stagger the various levels of offices so that we remain COVID compliant and have smaller units of people there drawing their lots.
Okay, we have a motion?
Go ahead, Jim. I'll let you lead through these.
So moved. So moved.
And I second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Next, Lorene.
Yes, the next is just a report on the filing the nomination petitions. We have seen an increase in activity yesterday and today, so they are moving along. The staff is accepting the petitions, reviewing them, and getting them into a system. So we're hopeful that at the end of the filing period, which will be 5 o'clock next Tuesday, the 9th, that we, by Wednesday, will have an unofficial listing of the candidates who did file locally. That would not be a listing that would include state filing because we don't get that immediately from the state. We encourage all candidates who have filed with the county to review that candidate's report to make sure that we've captured your name properly, spelling, all that various information. So it's a good time to review that candidacy list. Again, just everybody remember that we do have the petitions on our website as well as they can pick them up here. We also have a frequently asked questions document on our website to remind people of items that keep coming up as far as questions. So you're not alone in asking these questions. So many people are asking the same ones. So we're trying to assist people with as many various issues on their nomination petitions so that they can file them properly.
Mr. Chairman, may I note something before we move off of that topic, unless you had a question for Ms. Hagan?
Go ahead, Ashley.
Just for full transparency, I think I've indicated to everybody here at various times that I used to serve as a worker at the polls as well as my wife where we vote. And I just want to put out there that our judge of elections has decided due to health reasons not to continue, or I believe it's because of health reasons, it may not be. And therefore, my wife is going to run for the judge of elections for our voting precinct. And so I don't think it will raise any issues in the sense that I don't know that any question related to that petition or anything related to her candidacy for that judge of elections position will come before this board. But if it did, I would recuse myself, and I want to let you all know that in advance.
Well, I thank you for that. And we can have the solicitor double check this, but it's my recollection that the service on the Board of Elections is, and the candidacy rule reads in essence that it is up to the chief judge or the president judge of the County Court of Common Pleas, if a member of the Board of Election is a candidate, to nominate someone to sit in for them. So obviously you are not a candidate. I don't recall anything in the statute dealing with if they're someone's wife or family member, et cetera, as a candidate. And I actually can recall that we used to have a member whose daughter is a rather well-known member of the judiciary and was a candidate several times. And I don't remember any recusal there. So I do think this is okay, but perhaps Mr. Parks can just double check that.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll let him confirm, but I do want you to know that offline I did confer with him and let him know. And we agreed that even though we didn't foresee any issue, that it was worth, at least for transparency's sake, raising at this meeting. But Mr. Parks, if you would confirm or answer the question, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, that's correct. Ashley and I did speak about that, and I share your, Mr. Chairman, your reading of the code. I can double check it, but my recollection is that it says what you summarized, and that it does not encompass anyone other than the actual board member in that provision. It doesn't extend to board members' relatives, relations.
Right. And
And
to be clear, I wasn't
Chairman,
reading the code. I didn't know this was come. I was just trying to remember it. So I'm
No,
glad
thank you.
that's
No,
relatively
but I'm glad
consistent with
it's-
your recent reading of it.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, just so it's on the record. I mean, I appreciate Ashley, making that disclosure, and I have no problem with her wife, running for the position. I have no opposition to that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Parks. I appreciate it.
Okay. One thing, just while we're here, the comment I wanted to make regarding Ms. Hagan was talking about the petitions and all. I do want to thank. There was a lot of people in the community that helped. More so this year, it seems, than any other year. We had difficulty communicating with some of the municipalities to determine where there were vacancies, and I know a number of people in the community reached out to various municipalities to help engage them on this project. And Ms. Hagan's job is very difficult, and it seems it gets more and more difficult every year and every election. And to the extent people were helpful to her when it was as difficult as I can ever remember it being, trying to get responses from some of these municipalities to what the vacancies were and what should be on the ballot. I do want to thank the people in the community that were helpful to Ms. Hagan on that. So
Yes, that's very true. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for mentioning that. That was, took a lot of hands this year and they were all very appreciated. So.
I join in those thanks, and 3 cheers to Ms. Hagan.
Absolutely.
The last item is the ballot printing, and then we also, that matter that we got some questions today that actually came in as public comment, but the submitters said you don't have to read the letter and do all that if you can just tell me this information. So you could perhaps address those issues as well, because they're kind of related to the ballots.
Okay. As far as the ballot printing, we are moving forward with trying to secure a company with that, and move forward with the growth of the number of ballots being received, as well as the fulfillment, getting those mailed out and to voters. We did see quite an increase in that last year, and we anticipate seeing not as many this year in this primary, but certainly more than we would have seen in a municipal primary in the past. So we are certainly focused on those tasks at hand. Moving on to the item that you mentioned, we had received some questions about are we going to be scanning nomination petitions for people to view online what was filed. And although we did look into that, at this point, we are not ready to pull the trigger on such a action this year or this filing period. It is something we have interest moving forward to do, but the complexity of the number of offices we have, the number of candidates we receive, putting it in an orderly fashion on the website is just going to take a little more time and planning to do. So that is something that we're not going to discard, but it is not going to happen in the 2021 election cycle. Also, we were asked about the mailing of the permanent mail-in ballot file from 2020. The way I read that question was that it was a mailing that went out in 2021, but it was based on applications received in 2020. So my answers are going to be looking at it from that perspective. And there are files that the state has provided that create 3 categories. One is a category of applicants who applied by the absentee ballot process. Then there's a second category of people who applied as a mail-in application. That's the new applications that were introduced in 2020. And a third category, which has been around also a very long period of time, are called the alternate category. Alternative ballots are ballots that are issued to individuals who, for various reasons, are exercising their right to vote, but in a circumstance where their identity and their whereabouts needs to be protected for various reasons. So I acknowledge that there are the 3 categories the state has given us files for ballots we had issued in 2020 who had requested it to be a permanent mailer. And then we annually have to just reaffirm those positions from the voter. But we cannot make the alternate category public for hopefully understood reasons. But the absentee and the mail-in filing applications certainly are a file that could be shared upon written request. Another question along similar reasons or similar issues is the status of the regular mail-in ballot file from 2020. That is something that we do have. If somebody would wish to have that, we certainly can send that out upon request. I will revisit to see, if we have any outstanding requests for it. I am not aware of any at this time. So if I have missed that on someone's request, please send in that written request again to us. My apologies if that is the case. The fourth question we received was moving forward, facing to 2021, the status of a permanent or the absentee mail-in ballot requests. We have begun in the last maybe 10 days to receive an uptick in applications, both online and hard copy. They are being entered into the process. The process for entering them, both either online or by hard copy, remain pretty much the same as they have been always. The staff fully trained, reviews the applications, inspects it, especially for the hard copy, as to make sure they match the correct voter with the correct information, and reviews if it's going to a different mail-to address. And then they connect that voter's registration history to the application request. Then at a given time, once we have a certified ballot from the state and from the board, because we do have that county and the state level offices, we will begin to mail those ballots out. Traditionally in a municipal primary, those ballots probably don't start moving until about mid-April. So that will also be available again upon request. And in the past, we have tried to run those reports because it is time consuming. The SHORE system is an older system. That's the state system that we run these reports through. So as it is aging, as most of us do as we age, it gets a little slower. We do typically run those reports twice a week. If interested parties wanted to have that more common or more frequently, they could again put that request in writing and we would consider that. But twice a week is a good balance traditionally, but we don't say that's written in stone. So I think that addresses those questions that were asked to us earlier today. Again, please follow up if more information is needed. Also, Mr. Chairman, I think if at some point in the meeting you could explain to people who had sent comments in to the board either yesterday or prior to yesterday before 11:30 today, why maybe their comment was not read aloud. We have a couple people who are emailing us throughout the meeting that they had sent in an email and they did not hear that read. So I just wanted to make sure that those comments were also addressed.
Yeah, just so to be clear on that, the board adopted a policy on public comment that for public comments that are received prior to the meeting, that you distribute those comments to the board reviews them, and then those comments are made public as part of the minutes to the meeting. So if you want to hear your comment or you want to make sure your comment is publicized, we actually make the entire body of the written public comments part of the record of the meeting, and it's available for review and inspection. But since we've already read them, we don't take the time to read them aloud again during the meeting. But the solicitor has reviewed this, and we've reviewed what other bodies are doing at various places around the state, and that complies with the public meeting requirements. Obviously, I, for one, and I know I've been told by my fellow members of the board as well, so I think I speak for them. I hesitate to speak for anybody, but I think I speak for them. We all want to get back to live meetings. The public comment is much more effective than the live meeting. It's much more effective when you're hearing it simultaneously, when there can be a interaction. And I understand that this format is somewhat stilted, but we also had a meeting or two last year where Ms. Hagan read comments and we took turns reading them because we at that point had a policy of reading them all aloud, and we spent several hours, I think almost 4 hours reading them. It's important for us to read those comments. I know we all do read them. I think if you were paying attention, you heard each of us reference certain public comments that we had read. So they are effective and important, and we do review them. We just don't read them all aloud during the course of the meeting, because the public that is watching or participating in this meeting, I think there's 23 of you right now, are curious to get on with matters and can review the comments the same way that we do online after the meeting. So that is that. Do you have anything else, Ms. Hagan?
Chairman, I agree with you on that, and I'm looking forward myself to getting back to the regular public meetings. From what I understand, the governor has freed up the municipalities and governmental units to start having public meetings again. So I hope that our next meeting and all the meetings from now on will be public. So, but I do agree with your statement.
I hope so too. We seem to move a lot quicker when we're in person than we are here, and be much more effective and direct in our communications and exchanges. This is a difficult way to do it, but I do appreciate everybody hanging in there and doing our best to slog through this. So, Ms. Hagan, do you have anything else?
No, that is it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Iacona, do you have anything today?
I do. Apologies, Mr. Chairman. I had to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. 3 brief issues. First would be permission to authorize payment for poll workers that worked on election day, but were listed incorrectly on the pay sheet. This was partially covered in the January meeting, but we still have a few poll workers that need payment. I'd request that permission to pay them be granted. The workers were listed as board assistants on the pay sheet rather than poll workers when they did serve as actual poll workers. And in a few cases, there were poll workers that were missing from the sheet altogether.
Well, if we're confident that the people worked and did the job as a poll worker, I think you have the discretion to pay them. If you'd like us to make a motion to authorize you to do that, if that's helpful, then I think we can do that as well. Would you like that?
I would, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, did
Motion?
Sure. I thought we did actually at the last meeting say that anybody in this category should be paid, but I will move again to
I
make
kind of
sure.
thought we did too, but we're going to do whatever needs to be done to get this done. And
Exactly.
I'm more than embarrassed it's taken us this long to do it. I feel
I agree. I think
horrible
we did
about this.
before, but I second the motion as well. If it will move things along, we need to get these.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Christina, what's next?
Moving forward, consideration for training and hazard pay finalizations. The first thing would be permission to separate any hazard pay from training pay, so that if hazard pay is offered, it would be exclusive from the training pay. Poll workers that would be working a half day would only be entitled to half of that hazard pay. Poll workers that are working the full day would be entitled to the full hazard pay.
Well, I don't know that there is a hazard pay for this election anyway. My recollection is we handled this matter of changing the pay scale last summer, and we made changes to the pay scale. And to my thinking, that's where we are, and that's what's in effect. And if we're going to make some subsequent change about hazard pay or something, we'll do it then. But I don't know that we need to discuss anything now that we're not doing.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. And then lastly,
And just to make sure Ashley and Jim are on the same page on this. Nobody sees a reason to change anything about the pay.
I just missed Iacona. Were you talking about in the future, or were you talking about retrospectively? I just want to make sure I understand.
No, I'm talking about into the future for the 2021 election cycle, particularly just for the primary that we're in right now. It seems like for each election, the pay scale that has been decided, that's been upgraded to, $140 for each election worker and $150 for the judge. That was decided and that is secured. But the training pay and hazard pay will need to be adjusted because we currently had the hazard pay combined with the training for the general election. So we would like to determine what the pay scale will be for training and for successful completion of a poll worker exam, and for hazard pay, if there is or is not, that's up to you, and just kind of nail down something so that we can put it into the training materials and prep for training to begin in early April.
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know, and Mr. Byrne, if it makes sense, but first of all, you're calling hazard pay. I don't remember ever approving that. I do remember approving additional pay for completion of training during at least some of the elections. There's probably, I know the primary and I believe the general as well. So not sure how we broke it down, but I think important to me is to understand what the presentation would be on the training pay if there's recommended changes, and we don't have that before us, and I don't think we've had an opportunity to review the proposal. So if there is a proposal coming on that, I think we should review it and then discuss it at an open meeting.
I will get you a proposal by email for the next meeting. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware that something like that is coming, just so you have a heads up.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ashley and Jerry. And I think, it's something we have to have manly review as well, because, there are parameters of what we can and can't pay for. So I agree.
Okay, that's it. I will get that to you for the next meeting, and I thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Mr. Savage, I don't know why when I looked at this list, I was like, wait, I thought Jim was next. And then I looked at it and I didn't see it. But Mr. Savage, you're next, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. Two quick things. We have 3 precincts. We need approval to change all 3 precincts in Marple's 3rd Ward. So it's Marple 3-1, 3-2, and 3-3. They've historically voted at St. Pius X Church. St. Pius informed us last month that they're no longer able to host elections. There are no public facilities in the 3rd Ward. We had a series of discussions with local officials and the municipal leaders, and we have a bipartisan agreement to move these 3 precincts to Russell Elementary School. Russell Elementary School is actually in the 6th Ward, which is adjacent to the 3rd Ward. And the 6th Ward already votes there. I spoke to the director of facilities from the school district. There's adequate space and plenty of parking, and he felt that was the better option of any of the other schools that were close. So bipartisan agreement recommendation is to move Marple 3-1, Marple 3-2, and Marple 3-3 from St. Pius X Church to Russell Elementary School.
I would make that motion.
But we should make it a part of the record that you have reviewed these facilities and they comply with the requirements of the statute.
Yes, sir. It's an existing voting location, so we have inspection reports on file already.
Okay. So all those in, let's have a.
I'll second it. I second Mr. Burns' motion.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anything else, Jim?
Just real quick, by way of update, I was on the county council agenda meeting this morning and got approval to put the bid for delivery and return of the voting machine equipment on county council's agenda for tomorrow night's meeting. So that bid, assuming that's approved, and there's no reason to assume that it wouldn't be, that bid will be put out right after that and be open until March 30th. That bid was historically a multi-year bid, but last year, I guess, there was a determination made that it had to be bid annually. So it's a 1-year bid for both elections this year. It's a standard bid, with the exception, we had to consider delivery of the PPE kits, which historically wasn't in there. And we crafted the terms and conditions of the bid to contemplate PPE kit delivery for the primary and, if necessary, for the general, because there's just no way to know on March 2nd whether or not we'll still be delivering PPE come November.
Makes sense.
That'll be on county council's agenda tomorrow, and bids will close March 30th.
All right.
That's it for me.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Winterbottom.
Hi, good afternoon. I have nothing for review today, just some general updates or applications. So after the last election to today, we've approximately processed 25,000 applications. Some other general updates: last day to register is May 3rd for the May 18th primary election. All applications need to be in our office by the end of the day, May 3rd. That's all change of names, change of address, change of political party, or new registrations. To the Marple third ward polling locations, that we will start those changes, and all voters in the third ward will receive new voter registration cards with those changes, and we'll start that process tomorrow. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Old business. Anybody have anything?
Thank you.
The only thing, you know what, I don't know if Howard's still here. It seems he may have dropped off. Because I did want to follow up. There was something in the public comment about the vaccination of poll workers, and we had raised that issue at the last meeting. But since he's not here, we'll have to follow up with him subsequent to this and see if there's been any progress made about determining when in the scheme of order, I guess. I forget what, there's a phrase, obviously, for 1A, 1B, 1C, where poll workers may fall and whether that would be available for election day. If that's something we can help to facilitate, it would seem it would be a good thing, but it's obviously not our thing to control. So okay, is there any new business that anybody would like to raise?
I just can't imagine why Howard would have dropped out. This is so much fun, right?
So
I have no new business either, Jerry. Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, then I guess we have nothing further. Has there been any more public comment that's been received during the course of the meeting, Ms. Hagan?
Yes, there has been.
Okay.
Let's see. There's an additional person, Jean Mann, who also from Drexel Hill, Upper Darby Township, supports the use of the drop boxes throughout the county. Tracy Lira from Havertown, and she also supports the use of drop boxes. Kimberly Whitmer from Brookhaven, she says that she opposes the hiring of a Delaware County Director of Elections for 2 counts. Salary is absurd. And second, anyone hired for the position should at the very least be from Pennsylvania, if not from Delaware County. Another one is from Sierra Grace. It's from Darby, so I'm not sure if that's Darby Borough or Darby Township. Why are you hiring a Director of Elections from Chicago and at a 6-figure paycheck? For what? This needs to stop. Bob DeLuzio, it does not identify where he is from. He says, keep digging your graves, you will be voted out. John Kennedy from Wallingford, PA. Greetings, my name is John Kennedy, and adamantly oppose the hiring of individuals that reside outside the county. There are ample candidates that reside in your county that are competent to perform this position. I wait for your prompt reply. And that is all of them. The other one was the person who inquired about his prior submission of a question, and Mr. Lawrence, the chairman, addressed that already.
Okay. I do know there was one other matter that was in the public comment. There was some comments about certain litigation that the Board of Elections has been involved in, and it should be clear to all 2 things. One, the Board of Elections didn't sue anyone. The Board of Elections is being sued, defending those lawsuits. And the other thing to clear up in these public comments that were just made, the one about the Board of Elections being voted out. The Board of Elections, we're not elected officials. And it also follows on some comments about our being paid. We're also not paid. the three of us, Jim, Ashley, and I, do this as a civic duty. We are appointed by the county council to do this. We take our role and our responsibility very seriously, and we spend an extraordinary amount of time on this, but we don't get compensated for it. We do it because we think that there is a civic duty to this and a public calling, and a need to make sure that there is a bipartisan board that's provided for to oversee the operation of the elections. And we do from time to time disagree, and we sometimes think there's better ways to do things, but we all have the same goal, and that is to provide a fair election, and an election that people have access to and can vote in, and to be able to effectuate democracy. So I know certain people write in with comments and opinions, but there are a couple of factual matters that are relevant to those that I hope to point out. So does anyone else have anything else to add?
No, I just would, Jerry, follow up on that. It's well said. I mean, I think, we do, we do have differences of opinion from time to time, and it's a bipartisan board, but I think that's the way the charter's drawn up, so that we have this opportunity for comment. And although we sometimes disagree, I certainly appreciate you and Ashley and Manley's efforts, and everybody's efforts. But sometimes it seems like we're fighting over things, but it's really it's part of the process.
All right. Unless there's anything else, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.